Hi everyone, it's Megan. In this video today, I'm going to be talking about my top fantasy book recommendations, so let's just get right into it. So the first book that I have to recommend to you is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. Now this book is set in 4 parallel Londons, so we have Red London, Grey London, White London, and Black London. So in Red London, magic is thriving and magic is revered. In Grey London, magic doesn't exist at all. It's basically just a reflection of our world. White London, the world has been destroyed by a magical war, essentially. And in Black London, magic destroyed the world completely and nothing exists there anymore. So in this book, we follow our main character, whose name is Kell, and he's one of the last Antari, which means that he has the magical ability to travel between each of the 4 Londons, and he works as an ambassador between these 4 Londons, between the royal family in Red London and the royal family in Grey London, etc. He also does some smuggling on the side, and in Grey London he comes across our other main character, Lila Bard, and she's a character who's always wanted something more than a life of pickpocketing and conning people. So if you really love unique fantasies and books that take you on a wild adventure, then I really highly recommend that you read this one. So the second book I have to recommend to you today is one that's really close to my heart. It's one of my favorite fantasy books of all time, and that is The Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. So this book, I wouldn't say, it's not high fantasy, definitely. It's more bordering on magical realism, but there are aspects of Celtic folklore in here, so that's why I'm including it in this list. And this book is set on an island very similar to Ireland called Thisbe, and it has a population of about 4,000 people. And every November, these creatures called water horses start to emerge from the sea, and water horses, they're basically carnivorous horses that emerge from the water. If you know anything about Celtic mythology, you would have read about this type of creature before. So essentially, the people on this island have a race every November called the Scorpio Races, where they try to capture these water horses, which they call Kapal Ushka, and they try to tame them and race them down the beach. But it is dangerous because these horses, in the same time, are trying to, I guess, essentially kill these men and claim them and take them back into the sea. So in this book, we follow 2 perspectives. We have Puck, or Kate Connolly, and also we have Sean Kendrick. So in this book, Kate wants to ride in the Scorpio Races because a year previously her parents were both killed by water horses, and her brother has just told her that he's going to leave the island, so she feels like she has no other choice but to compete to win the prize money in order to help her and her younger brother continue to survive on the island. Then we have Sean Kendrick, whose father was killed in the races 10 years previously, and he's since then ridden in these races every single year. And he has a water horse named Core, who he captured and tamed and keeps in the stables. This book just has a really, really magical, unique quality to it. The writing is beautiful. Maggie Stiefvater is an incredible writer. And if you like magic realism and Celtic folklore, then I highly, highly recommend that you read The Scorpio Races. So the third book that I have to recommend to you is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. So this is a really, really unique fantasy story, and here we follow a boy called Laszlo Strange, and he grew up as an orphan in a monastery until he was taken to live in this great library and work as an apprentice in the library. And as he came to this library, he started to become obsessed with stories and mythology about this city called Weep. And the only reason this city is called Weep is because nobody in the world can remember the real name of the city. It was just magically wiped from everybody's minds one day, and nobody has seen this city in hundreds of years, and it's Laszlo's dream to travel there and see Weep and see if the mythology and the stories that he's read about it are true. So in this book, we follow Laszlo as he goes on an adventure to find Weep, to see it, and discover all the things that exist there. And in the meantime, we come across some other very incredible, very well-written characters that I'm sure you'll fall in love with if you read this story. I highly recommend this book if you love mythology, because Laini Taylor essentially created her own mythology for this story, which is incredible, and I just highly recommend this book to anybody who is a type of reader that loves reading about libraries and loves reading about books and discovering new types of mythology, and it's just great. I love it. And so the last book that I have to recommend to you today is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. So I read this book really recently, so it's nice and fresh in my brain. This book is another book like Strange the Dreamer, which is it's basically a book about books and libraries, which is right up my alley, and I love this book so much. So in this book we follow our main character, whose name is Elizabeth Scrivener, and she's also an orphan who's grown up in the Great Library. And she basically grew up around books and these grimoires that have magical properties, and she's been learning how to take care of them, and also learning about how these different books have different abilities and different levels of dangerousness, and how to deal with them and how to keep them safe and make sure that they don't get unleashed on the world. And it's not a spoiler, but at the beginning of this book, one of the most dangerous grimoires in the whole kingdom gets released, and basically Elizabeth gets framed for this crime. And the book basically follows her as she's taken to the Citadel and sent to live with this sorcerer and put on trial for this crimes that she didn't commit. And the plot really unfolds from there. It's so intriguing. It's really fast-paced. The character banter is really good. If you love books where the characters have really good relationships and they have this funny banter with each other, then you'll really enjoy this book. The romance in here is also really good. I really enjoyed it. It's not overdone, and it's just the right level of angsty romance for a young adult fantasy book, in my opinion. But if you love Strange the Dreamer, if you've read it before, then I highly recommend that you read this book as well. So that's it for my fantasy book recommendations. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you go out and pick up some of the books that I showed you, and I really hope that you love them as much as I do. Bye!